When it comes to animation and the animation industry in general, I wouldn't really say I'm that much of an expert, which is kind of sad because it's the only thing I'm good at. But the point is, I know enough to not be surprised about projects anymore. While Chainsaw Man fans were crying that Jujutsu Kaisen is Mappa's favorite project, I already knew that the CSM movie is gonna look incredible. Well, how about this random remake of a manga that finished airing 32 years ago? Yaiba has literally every single big name Kannada-style animator participating in it, and it's led by one of the best and the most influential Kannada-style animators of all time. It looks good. Fire Force is back, without Kazuhiro Miwa, Riki Matsura, Yuki Sato, Hiroyuki Okaji, and many other freelancers who made season 1 and 2 really good. I'm sorry. Many of the freelancers who made season 1 and 2 look good haven't appeared yet. Where there's delusion, there's hope. So generally, if you know more about something, you are less likely to get surprised about that thing. Like for content creation, I would say I know a little bit about it. I've been doing this for a few years now. So when my audio gets corrupted and the video is completely useless, I'm no longer surprised because it's happened more than once. But in this season of anime, there's a project that blew me away, not only because of how impressive it is, but also because I truly know nothing about it. The main reason behind that is that it's not really mainly a Japanese project. It's a Chinese project. It's not anime, it is Donghua. You've already read the title of the video. I'm talking about To Be Hero X. So firstly, what makes To Be Hero X interesting or compelling enough for me to talk about it? One of the reasons is just that it's one of the most stylized and impressive pieces of art I've seen. There are three main art styles in To Be Hero X. Firstly, the most significant component, it is the 3D animation. When I say 3D animation, you probably winced because of all the trauma that you've accumulated over the years. But 3D animation, when done by experienced people, looks really good, especially when it's not limited by art style. That is, when it's not trying to look like 2D animation. And To Be Hero X has that privilege. These designs are not trying to look like they are hand-drawn. It's immediately obvious that what you're witnessing is 3D. So then the question is whether this is good 3D or bad 3D. And again, immediately at a glance, you should have your answer. There is phenomenal attention to detail. Things that 3D, especially in anime, usually struggle with, like micro expressions, managing the frame timing of the animation, realistic weight distribution. It's all here. And it's not just here, it all looks incredible. The second style is a full cartoonish style. This is full hand-drawn animation. The character designs have really thick outlines, big eyes, generally rounded shapes that taper into sharp features. Even a comic book style gradient as a separate composite layer on top of all of this to give it a paper-like texture. The third main style is also a hand-drawn animation style, this time more closely resembling anime with more realistic proportions. And this style is quite a bit different from the other style. It's not as different as, let's say, the art style between Panty and Stocking and Concrete Revolution, but instead the two styles are on a scale between these two shows. And these three main styles are not the only styles they have. The more anime-like style can go so psychedelic with the colors, with such an immense overhaul to the background art and compositing, that you could call this a different art style. Not to mention the insane one-off art styles that they use for short specific moments. And all of this is not even the most impressive thing. The most impressive thing is how seamlessly all of this blends together, sometimes in the same cut. I have never seen 2D animation literally flowing on top of a 3D model and transitioning to a full 2D drawing. The snap is a transition point. You can already see that his arm is 2D here, looking at the smears on the snap, and then slowly more and more of his arm is hand-drawn. Here the animation is done in ones, which is 24 drawings per second to match the 24 FPS of the video. Why is it done in ones? Specifically to match the frame rate of the 3D animation. 3D just usually looks better in ones. There are obvious exceptions to that rule. The reason to use twos for 3D animation is usually to make the 3D look like 2D, because 2D is usually animated in twos. To Be Hero X does not have that limitation, so they can make the 3D look as good as possible. They can make the 2D look as good as possible, and the staff are so talented that they can seamlessly mix the two using techniques like this. It's not just the foreground character. Since the foreground is switching to 2D anyway, the animator here also throws in some background animation. And the storyboards and the direction is so fucking flawless, making the 3D 2D transitions not only a form of art, but also making a part of the storytelling and the characters' powers. And of course, it's not just the switching, there's flawless mixing as well, with 2D characters and 3D backgrounds, and 3D models with 2D effects animation. To Be Hero X is an incredibly impressive project. Why does that surprise me though? It's the logistics. It doesn't make sense. It would take like a collaboration between one of the biggest producers of Chinese media and one of the biggest producers of Japanese media. So that kind of explains the money side of things, because it is ridiculously expensive to produce a show like this one, especially one that's going to have 24 episodes. Now, yes, this is the Donghua industry where it's kind of meta to produce a couple of really well animated episodes where most of the resources are poured into and the rest of the project doesn't look nearly as good, because you're hiring specific artists for this episode who are not actually part of the whole project. But I have a sneaking suspicion that To Be Hero X is going to look consistently as incredible as episode 1 and 2 all the way through to episode 24. Why, you may ask? Because these incredible scenes that I showed you are actually from a trailer. So what? Trailers are always going to look impressive. Except this trailer is a unique project outside of the ONA series itself, specifically made for this character named X, and there are 9 others like this one, all incredibly well animated. Where is this money coming from? Oh yeah. And it's not just the visual side of things that's crazy, the audio side is just as crazy, if not crazier. We have Misaki Umase and Hidefumi Kenmochi, who are up and upcoming score artists for anime. That's right, most of the people involved in the music or the score department are from the east of China. I say most because these two aren't the only ones. We also have Ryuichi Takada, who did the OST for Shangri-La Frontier, Summertime Rendering, and a bunch of insert songs for Vivi as well, which had fantastic music. We also have Shuhei Mutsuki, who did the score for Spy X Family, Liko Riko, and many other shows. But that's not enough. There is also Hideyuki Fukusawa, made the score for Unlimited Blade Works. At this point, you might be thinking that is enough artists. We don't need anyone else on the score, but you would be wrong. Who is the first musical artist that comes to your mind when I say Shingeki no Kyojin? That's right, Kota Yamamoto, who did the OST for the final seasons of Attack on Titan and 86, among other things. Also, the other musical artist who's involved with Attack on Titan, I kind of forgot his name. He's the one who's composing the opening, the ED, and quite a bit of the music as well. I'm not even gonna bother mentioning the dozen or so artists who are involved with the theme songs, because then this video would just be about the music. The point is, yeah, what the fuck is this project? Going back to the visuals though, how is it possible for one studio to produce 24 episodes of such insanely high quality with multiple uniquely different specialities? It doesn't seem possible, because it isn't. To Be Hero X is being produced by 3 studios. It might be 4, I'll give you my reasoning later, but the 3 main studios are these, and the 4th one is this. Having 3 studios does make the production easier, or at the very least possible, but it doesn't make it any simpler. The kind of stuff that they're pulling off with this anime requires perfect synergy between all of these teams involved. And that uniting factor is the director, the single most important artist behind this project. Shota Guchis, no, what? It's Howling Lee. The reason I consider him to be the uniting factor of all of these studios is because he's worked with all of them. Now, his career is super interesting, but I want to keep this video relevant to Be Hero X. As such, I will only be talking about specific projects, and as such, the first relevant project is To Be Hero, without the X. Just To Be Hero. Howling Lee not only directed this, but also wrote the script for this. And this project is not unique in that regard. He's just as much a story writer as much as he is a visual creator. He is the original creator and the script writer for many of the shows that he directs. The studio behind To Be Hero is Studio Lan. Fun fact, the character designer of To Be Hero is an artist named Lan, who's also coincidentally the founder of Studio Lan. The next relevant project is To Be Hero In. Once again, Howling Lee, director, scriptwriter, original creator. Once again, Studio Lan. Once again, character design by Lan. I haven't watched either of these shows, but now I'm very interested in them because of To Be Hero X. The same 2 artists and the studio carries over to the next big project, which is perhaps the biggest project, like even bigger than To Be Hero X. You might not have heard of To Be Hero X until this video, but you've more than likely heard about Link Click. With Link Click, Howling Lee has now joined the big leagues. Up until this point, most of Howling Lee's projects were produced by the coincidentally named Howliners Animation, which was founded by Howling Lee. But eventually he started working on projects produced by Bilibili, and now he's making projects with Bilibili. This is how the production company B Dream was born. It's a collaboration between Howling Lee's Howliners and Bilibili. You saw them first on Link Click alongside Bilibili and Aniplex. As I said, this is Howling Lee's first step into the big leagues. I might as well talk about the 4th production company attached to Be Hero X. It's called Be Cool Studio. But from every bit of digging that I could do, all I could find is that it's the same studio as B Dream. So I don't really think that there's much of a difference. Maybe like a subsidiary like A1 Pictures and Cloverworks. So we've already talked about the 4 major production companies attached to 2B Hero X, but as for the 3 studios, which actually might be 4, we are still only at 1. This all changes, however, with Link Click Season 2. This time, Studio Lan is joined by 2 other studios, PB Animation, which probably stands for Peanut Butter, and CMC Media, which probably stands for Certified Milk Connoisseur, or more accurately, me underneath every Miss Faves post. So PB Animation is the 2nd main studio attached to 2B Hero X, and CMC Media is the 4th possible studio that I think is attached to the project, but it's not listed, so it's not involved, right? Here's the thing though, my main source here is Analyst, and Analyst is not always accurate. Like technically all these studios have worked together all the way back in 2017. It's just that the production studio listed on Analyst is Studio Lan and the other 3 are listed under producers. So it's not necessarily fully accurate. It also ties into the final project that I want to talk about. While looking at 2B Hero X's art style, specifically the 3D segments and how they mix 2D effects animation with the 3D and also the paint textures that they use over the 3D models themselves, the thought should immediately come to your mind, yeah, this is just like Arcane. The thing is though, Arcane came out in 2021. Howling Lee had already done this in 2020. On 2020, Howling Lee directed a short named Kin of the Stained Blade, which coincidentally is also part of the League of Legends universe. And this time I'm using coincidentally unironically. Kin of the Stained Blade is readily available for you to watch on YouTube. It is the origin of 2B Hero X's art style with the 2D and 3D mixing. So the 2D, we know where it comes from. What about the 3D? It comes from Paper Plane Animation Studio. This is the 3rd major studio attached to 2B Hero X. There's no mention of CMC Media under Kin of the Stained Blade, at least in Analyst, but if you look in the YouTube description of the video, CMC Media is credited. This is the reason I think Analyst is incomplete information, but also because all of these Chinese companies do a lot of outsourcing work. Studio Lan, for example, helped out with 3 episodes of One Punch Man Season 2, and under Studio Lan came unique artists for these episodes through Lan's connections, like Chris, yes, I'm talking about the same Chris, Rio, yes, I'm talking about this Rio, Julian Bentley, yes, I'm talking about this Julian Bentley, and many other young artists. Studio Lan also helped out with episode 22 of Vinland Saga Season 1, which again saw Chris, Proto, Blue, etc. So it's just not possible to list out every studio involved in co-production or outsourcing. It would just get too cluttered, so Analyst is not necessarily inaccurate. Also, it's so cool to have artists that you're really familiar with, like Chris, just seamlessly connect into a completely different production that you're just researching and learning about. It's actually this, connecting artists to other artists and other studios, that is the most fun thing to me when it comes to learning about the animation industry. So yeah, that's about it. That's basically the production breakdown for 2B Hero X, talking about some of the artists and the studios involved at least. You haven't learned everything to do with this project because you learned from me and I don't know everything that there is to this project, but maybe you do know more than me. So please let me know in the comment section because this is a fascinating project to learn about. I'm not doing individual scene breakdowns because firstly, I think this project works better as a whole. Secondly, this project just has Donghua syndrome, which is to say that it's very difficult to get credits. There is some really cool stuff, of course. Like when I saw the texture and line art of this segment in the opening, I was like, hey, that's Chainsaw Man's ED9. And yep, it is Masanobu Hiraoka's work. Similarly, Fu Yukura's opener for episode 2 was absolutely fantastic. This has the same charm as some of the gags in Look Back. A couple of highlights from episode 1 was animated by Yongsi2, who you would be familiar with if you follow One Piece. And then there's the ending sequence, which is also really good, made by Hatsuka, who's credited for everything. About the animation component of that, this cut of X is beautiful. The character acting is phenomenal, it's weighty, it's given a lot of depth with the shading of the clothes. But yeah, outside of that, the most popular artist is going to be Artist Unknown. As always, it's just difficult to give spotlight to specific animators in Donghua because they're just not credited appropriately, which I'm sure will keep changing steadily when Donghua gets more and more popular. This video is brought to you by my patrons. Special thanks to Shiro, Mao Mao, and the Huntsman Spider in my bathroom. It's always there, just staring at me. Also thanks to my managers, Axel, Iseman P, and Patrick Kaminsky. If you like what I do, leave a like and maybe even join them on Patreon. If you did not like this video, leave it a dislike. That's about it. Thanks for the views.